Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for today with the subject being cloud solutions for SOLIDWORKS. Typically, when we think about cloud, we think about different things, but there's definitely one industry that's been hugely affected by cloud, internet, web apps, all of these types of technologies, and that's the industry of how we consume television, movies, all of these things from home. And as we went from VHS, VCRs, all these lovely technologies, to possibly a Chromecast if you had a chance to acquire one of those along the way, so that you could at least diffuse on your television what you had on your computer. We've gone to completely digital platforms to which we have access to a number of these days. Where in the past there was one, now there are many, and competition is much larger. So definitely an industry that has transformed itself by using cloud web technology. And we're going to talk a bit today about how this can apply to your business of design, which is a completely different industry, obviously. My name is Joelle Guinette, and I'm a technical or territory manager for Dassault Systems. I cover Eastern Canada and have been doing so for 6 years at SOLIDWORKS. And I have with me Michelle Cloutier, who's been at SOLIDWORKS for 16 years, so a lot longer than I have. Our mission, our role is to connect with our partners, connect with our customers, connect with people looking at SOLIDWORKS, but not just SOLIDWORKS as a point solution, SOLIDWORKS as an optimal solution for your business, as there's more than one product, one solution, and one offering, and we're going to be seeing some of those today. If this is your first time to using GoToWebinar, just to quickly to recap, or to show you, you've got a panel on your right-hand side of your screen. You can minimize that or close it off by clicking on the orange arrow so that you can see the screen fully and maximize your view, obviously. The audio portion of it can be done through your computer, so through internet. But you can switch to phone if for some reason the quality is not high enough. Clicking on the phone option will give you the phone number and the access code to dive into that. But just be aware that the area code may not be in the same area as you, and then may inquire or incur some additional fees. So just be aware. Some handouts. There is one handout today that you can download at any time during the webinar, so feel free to take that. Our favorite section is the questions section, and of course, if you have questions as we go through this information, please feel free to enter them in there. And as time permits at the end of the webinar, we'll take a few minutes to check if there's anything and to answer them. One question that we get regularly is if this is recorded, and I will answer that right now. Yes, this is being recorded, so that either you can view it again if there's something that wasn't clear, something you missed, or you can share with others in your company if you feel that it was worthwhile, or a subject that pertains to someone else in your company. So let's dive into our topic for today, cloud solutions for SOLIDWORKS. I'm going to start with cloud solutions in general. We usually think of cloud solutions as apps to start with, right? And from a personal perspective, right, the most frequent use of cloud apps is on our phone. We have something that we want to do, we find the app and we download it. It's great, it's functional. There's obviously cloud services as well. There's cloud computing. This is where we get into more of a business application than a personal one. Then there's a whole lot of other terminology that go from digital transformation to make your company as a whole maybe paperless. So different aspects of using technology to do that. There's the Internet of Things, as we're looking to connect everything and anything possibly to the internet, from your pajamas to your dishwasher. And then there's Industry 4.0. How to transform your manufacturing process into an intelligent one. So there's a lot of technology, there's a lot of terminology that surrounds anything that has to do with the internet. And it can get very confusing, both from a personal perspective, but definitely from a business perspective of what do I need, what applies from me, and what, if any of these, will help my company be better, be more competitive, be more productive, whatever it may be that you're looking to achieve in your short, medium, or long-term goals. So as we're looking at these to dive into the cloud aspects just a little further in cloud solutions, then it gets divided up into different sections. So the first one is applications. And that's what we know as SaaS, so software as a service. And this is you're renting an application, a functionality. Mostly these are used for finance type of things. They can be used for web development. These are some of the more common website, obviously email access. These are some of the more common ones that we see there. And then we get to the next level, which is platform as a service. And then where you get to having a database, having some structure to the things that you're doing, obviously, having a login of your own possibly, and then a level higher, which is infrastructure as a service, where you're accessing these computing tools that I mentioned, server access. So all of these things that surround the higher level for an enterprise level implication. So lots of terminology, lots of new acronyms, lots of things that make this a confusing world to navigate. We're going to try and explain today how this pertains to SOLIDWORKS, but we're going to explain why cloud in general, right? Why would you as a person or as a company look at cloud solutions? What does it offer your company? So the first one is that it responds quickly to a need, right? That's the purpose of it. The example, I want to go for a walk, but I want to see what distance I'm walking. I'm going to go search in the iStore, see if there's an app for it. Walking distance, great, download, I'm done, right? So it responds quickly to a need. It also deploys quickly. So that's awesome because you're up and running really quickly. And that's very useful to be able to turn things around. Obviously, from a personal level, great, you don't have to wait. From a business level as well, it can be very important. Simplified operations. So these tools are usually from an apps level, definitely more simplified than they would be from other types of tools, which may have more configurations, more applications, training to do. These apps may be more simplified in operations. Not always the case, though. It'll depend on the end result that you're looking for. And we'll see some of those today. Less expensive is another aspect of why people go for cloud solutions. So this becomes the difference between owning and renting sometimes, right? So terminologies that are usually used in other aspects. So for example, my water tank, I can own it or I can rent it. My car, I can own it or I can rent it. And there's different reasons why we choose one versus the other. One may be how long I plan to keep it. One may be how quickly it changes in terms of functionality, performance, whatever it may be. So my water tank on one end may not be something that's going to be a super technological advancement in the next few years. So I may want to purchase that. Whereas my car, these days, there's a lot of new technologies that goes into cars in terms of electronics, GPS, all of these things that are constantly evolving in the cars, where I may want to rent that to stay up to speed on these new technologies. So different ways of looking at things, and it's becoming the same for your business tools. Do I own them? Do I rent them? Which one is the best solution? And there's different aspects that are going to influence those. Obviously, cloud is accessible, and that's one of the main reasons people like it, is the accessibility reason that you can access it from your phone, your tablet, your Mac, your computer. If it's a truly cloud tool, it doesn't matter what you're on as long as you can connect to the internet. So it doesn't matter the where, the why, the what tool you're using, just that there's internet. And that's huge for being able to have access to things all the time, but to share things easily as well, as we'll see throughout this presentation. You can reduce and eliminate the equipment and the IT that's needed for this. You've got some choices to make. So in the cases that we're going to look at today, it could be the difference between cloud and server. When you're storing from a personal level, maybe your pictures, it can be the old photo album. It could be, which is physical, obviously. It could be an external hard drive on which you put all your digital tools, or it can be an actual cloud app that stores your files and keeps them for you. So a lot of different levels of aspect for those, and same thing for your business. always being up to date is one of the great advantages of cloud, is that technology keeps moving. You don't have to stop and wait. So this is something that you live with owning SolidWorks, that you're on, let's say SolidWorks 2019, you want to move to 2020 or 21, whichever you're going to, you need to plan this. You, if you're alone, your IT, if it's a company, there's people involved, it's a process. You need to make sure that you're doing it at the right time, that you're not impacting anyone else. So there's a process to be careful with. With cloud solutions, it automatically updates, right? So you're up to date all the time, you're always on the latest, which is great because you automatically benefit from the most recent innovations. So as I mentioning with the car aspect earlier, right? If I'm renting a car and therefore changing it more often, then I get to tap into new technology that gets added to cars every time that I change. So in this case, even easier, you're not changing cars, the tools just update behind you. And if you remember, not long ago, you used to have to do those updates manually on your iPad, your iPhone, for example. They would have, updates. You would click, do them all, or do this one, do this one. You'd have to do these updates manually. Now they're all very much done in the background, and no need to worry. They just happen, and you get to benefit. The last aspect I'm going to mention is security. Cloud applications are very secure. And that wasn't the case, or wasn't the mentality or the thought of these in the past. That was the main concern for people going to cloud, scared of putting things there that they didn't know how it was being managed, how it was being secured. And that is no longer the case. Obviously, it may depend on which service you're going with, but if there's any reputable service for securing or putting your data, it's secure, and we have documents for our data, how it's managed, that can help you if ever that's a concern. We can share that with you offline if ever you wanted. But cloud has become a very secure platform, secure place to be, which eliminates some of that fear from before. So what have we been doing? SolidWorks and the cloud. How does this work together? Well, we could ask you to change everything that you're doing. We're not changing everything that you're doing. You have SolidWorks. You like your SolidWorks. Your SolidWorks is what we call desktop, right? It's on your computer. It's installed there and it works. And we don't want you to change everything you're doing, but we do want you to be able to tap into new functionality. And that functionality can be cloud-based in this environment. Now, obviously, we have a whole bunch of other desktop solutions, simulation, data management. We have all of these that are on our desktop as well, but we have new cloud-based solutions for these. And I say new relative, right? They've been around for a few years, but they may be new to you, and we want to make sure that you're aware of them. So we're going to talk about the four main pillars of these today, and give you some examples just to give you a feel for using your SolidWorks desktop today, how you could expand that capabilities in with these cloud solutions for management, design, simulation, and manufacturing. And to do that, I am going to pass this over to Michel Cloutier, who is a solutions consultant. So he's going to present these solutions to you, and I will come back at the end to wrap this call up. Over to you, Michel.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session. So like Joelle mentioned, we want to touch on some cloud applications that help the SolidWorks user. So we talked about management, simulation, design, and manufacturing. I kind of reformatted those into the four different, kind of buckets or stories that we're going to touch on today, but really the same thing. So we're going to talk about hassle-free data management. That's going to be our first item. Simulation without limits, future of design for designing tools, and manufacturing without limits. Now, what Joelle and I want to do today is really touch a little bit on each of those categories, and I'll show you a little bit about how the tool works in each of those, but we're not going to go in depth. Our plan is in the future weeks and months to actually have sessions dedicated to either or of those tools. So really what we want you to take out of this today is really just a first look at any of those solutions. And if they do make sense, you want to learn more, obviously you can reach out to us directly, but we're going to actually come back and dig in deeper a little further down. We just wanted to start with showing you what's out there, because when we talk about the platform or the cloud solutions, we have like over 90 products available on the cloud today. So it wouldn't make sense to, just throw everything out at you and try to figure it out. So I kind of dumbed it down to really what makes sense for the SOLIDWORKS user today. So let's start with our first category, which is data management on the cloud. And the first product I'm going to talk about is Collaborative Designer for SOLIDWORKS. Let me show you how this tool works. So as Joel mentioned, we're not replacing SOLIDWORKS. So you start your design inside of SOLIDWORKS. What we do, however, is handle all the managing and the saving, the hosting of the data. So from SOLIDWORKS, you save where? You save to the cloud. That's where the data is stored, but it's not just storage. It goes much further than that. So for example, I got a design, I do a change, I need to know what other assemblies or parts this is going to impact. I have a visual reference of everything that touches this design. I can also use what we call maturity states to control the life cycle of the product. So it's in work, yeah, I put it to frozen because I want to do a design review. And then we can go even further to do issue management, change action, to really track design changes in a design. Furthermore, since the data is now stored on the cloud, I now have access to that data using any type of browser, using on any device. So if I just need to visualize the data, I just need an iPad and a connection, internet connection. I can even pull that into a project planning tool. We have that. I can review revisions. I can change the life cycle of the product. So if I'm at home and I just want to review a design and approve it, I could do it from my iPad. I don't need a computer. I don't even need SOLIDWORKS because the data is hosted on the cloud. So it becomes very easily accessible, and we can actually do quite some stuff from there too. Now, when we talk about Collaborative Designer for SOLIDWORKS, who's it for? So it's a tool built for engineering teams that are not currently using PDM. And not because we don't like you if you are using PDM, but if you're using a typical, like SOLIDWORKS PDM standard and you want more functionality, like, being able to access data from internet, well, there's an upgrade path to go to PDM Professional. It's the same, same system, works on the same, there's no migration of files to do, anything like that. So it's much easier to do that. And if you have PDM Professional, like you want to do, resource management, project planning, well, we have another tool that's called SOLIDWORKS Manage that again is built on top of. So it's very easy to migrate, or not to migrate, but to upgrade if you have a traditional PDM tool. So whereas Collaborative Designer is really built for people that don't have anything today, but they want to have a centralized, secure place where they save and control all their data. The other benefit with Collaborative Designer for SOLIDWORKS is that you don't need any servers. You don't need anything to host the files. The files are hosted on a data center and everything's being handled there. The only thing you need is internet connection. That's it. So if you don't want to invest into a server or invest into software to host the server and whatnot, you don't need any of that. Everything's done on the cloud. And then the ability to access the data from anywhere. In the last year, everyone's been working, from home, a little bit from the office, a little bit from home, one day's in, one day's out. So the data is on the cloud. You have access to internet. If I'm working from home, if I'm working from the office, there's no difference. As long as I have internet, I can do my job. I don't have to pack and go files into my laptop before I leave the office. I don't have to do any of that. We just need access to internet. So this is what really Collaborative Designer is for. Now let's switch gears and talk about simulation. Now when we talk about simulation, I'm going to talk about this product called Structural Mechanics Engineer. And this is a product to do advanced simulation. So again, we start from SOLIDWORKS, but from SOLIDWORKS, we're going to save to the cloud, and then we're going to leverage tools dedicated for simulation. So here we'll kind of walk through an example where I'm reusing the SOLIDWORKS data to create a vibration analysis. This little drone tends to vibrate, because of the motors, but also because of the air, the turbulent air going around it. So I want to make sure that my electronics is going to survive this. So if you've done simulation before, you'll actually see through here that it's a very similar process. You start by setting up your simulation, what type of simulation, and then you're going to select which parts of this whole assembly. I don't want to analyze the whole assembly. Really, what is critical here is, the electronics. So I'm going to select the electronics to define that this is actually what I want to analyze in detail. Then I'm going to assign material. There's a library of material. You can create your own. You can import material from the SOLIDWORKS design if it's there. But there's a nice little option here where you can actually define your own material based off physical testing. Very common in like, if you're dealing with a lot of plastics and things like that, you can actually create physical tests, get the test data, and then create the model, the physical properties for that material over here and apply that to your design. Once you do that, next step would be to define how the assembly is held in, the parts are supported in the assembly. We've got a lot of shortcuts and what we call connectors to help you do that, like bolts and screws and things like that. Just saves a ton of time. A lot of automatic meshing capabilities, but also more advanced meshing capabilities with quality mesh checks, so verify that your mesh is good quality. One of the big benefits is also the ability to solve using the cloud. So rather than solving on your local computer, you can actually send the calculation to be solved on the cloud, which is much faster for like very big problems or big solutions that need a lot of computational force to get to solve. Again, a bit more examples here. We're looking at vibration analysis, but again, it's really getting into some more of the advanced simulation that we do have tools on our current desktop products with SOLIDWORKS Simulation, Simulation Professional, Simulation Premium, but in some cases, you actually need some more capabilities. Like advanced drop testing, think about like hyper elastic material, complex contacts that you need to solve, and maybe just very large simulation problem. This tool is really great to do that. So it really kind of goes beyond what we can do in our traditional desktop product line. So if we recap quick, who's it for? So structural mechanics engineer is for when you need advanced simulation capabilities going beyond what we can do in traditional SOLIDWORKS simulation, in our traditional SOLIDWORKS simulation product. And some companies, some people just want to use the Abacus technology, and that's what we're using inside of structural mechanics engineer. If you're not familiar with FEA, Abacus is the most, the solver, the biggest solver, the most powerful solver on the planet right now, being leveraged by automotive, aerospace, defense industries. So very high-end type of simulation and technology. And also a big benefit here is that you can leverage the cloud computing capabilities. So you can set up the simulation on your computer, but then send the calculation, the solving to the cloud so you can solve it a lot faster. Now we talked about simulation. Let's get back to design, right? So if you're here, you're likely a SOLIDWORKS user. So I'm going to show you something that you're not able to do inside of SOLIDWORKS using a product called 3D Sculptor or X-Shape. And really, this is for users that need to do organic shape. If you do a lot of surfacing, the swoopy curve kind of model, this is for you. So I got this example where I got a remote, like a TV remote, but the core components are done inside of SOLIDWORKS, and I want to have a nice, shell going over it. Now, typically inside of SOLIDWORKS, you would start with, planes and sketches and splines and control the curvature of those splines and tangency control and all that. Using 3D Sculptor, it's a very different approach. Rather than starting with a sketch with splines, we actually start with the primitive shape, and then using different types of control, you're going to see some of them here, you're actually going to just push and pull and get it into shape. See, so we simply window select some of those control points using the little robot. We simply push and pull into the shape we want this part to be. You could also, we didn't do it here, but you could also import like background image and kind of use that as a starting line. But see how easy it is. You just, again, push and pull. Here I've added a symmetry plane just so make sure that our remote is symmetric. Now everything I do on one side of the remote is being applied on the other. Now you saw me kind of pick the control points. We can also change how we control this shape. Here we're also using what we call the cage, which is kind of surrounding that model. Just a different approach of how we control, the modeling of this part. So you see here, it's very, very easy. There's no sketch involved. Like you could use sketch if you really wanted to, but oftentimes you just don't need to. You just push and pull into the shape you want. You can use the points, you can use the curves, what we call loops here, faces as well. You basically really just push and pull into shape. Now I use one primitive. You can actually add more and then do some Boolean operations like adding and subtraction, add a fillets at the base of these two combined objects. So again, very, very easy to kind of mold it into place. Here's another example for a handle where I want to have that shape. So I do a Boolean operation to subtract. Again, everything you need to design that has some organic shape, complex curves, curvature is really important. X shape or 3D Sculptor is a great tool to help you do that. So let's recap real quick. I said that already. Who's it for? If you're doing any type of, organic shapes or complex surfaces, this is likely a tool that's, that you'll want to touch on. One of the benefits, and we didn't see it in the video, but we'll talk over when we do our sessions, and I think it makes sense to do a session on 3D Sculptor by itself, is the tight integration with SOLIDWORKS. Like if there's other tools on the market that can do some of that, but if you want to work with SOLIDWORKS, like for example, the remote, I would have needed to export the remote out of SOLIDWORKS first, import that into another software, maybe do the modeling there, and when it's done, bring that shape back into SOLIDWORKS. So it's just really hard to do all of that. With X shape, it's a drag and drop, and nothing more to do, right? So it has a really tight integration with SOLIDWORKS. One of the other benefits with X-Shape is that it's a fully cloud-based tool. What I mean by that, it runs inside of your browser. So a lot of designers, they like to use Macs, they like to use iPads, one of the benefits of those devices, they're really touch oriented, or you can use a touch or your stylus. Now X-Shape was designed with that in mind. So if you want to use a stylus and the touch devices, it's great, but you don't need a Windows system. It can run on a Mac, it can run, I have a Chromebook downstairs, I run it on Chromebook, it's awesome. So it's really hardware neutral. You don't need a Windows system to run it. So we talked about design. Last category I want to talk about is manufacturing. And I'm going to start with this first tool called Lean Team Player. And let me ask you this. How often, pre-COVID, how often were you in a meeting kind of looking like this, where you're not sure why you're in that meeting, and you see probably half of the people in that meeting kind of, do something else? Happens on, web meetings as well. So Lean Team is really a tool to help you organize your meetings and set up and structure those meetings and help everyone participate. It was actually designed originally for the Flash 5 Lean meetings that we have on production floor before a shift starts. But then we can use that for design review. So you can actually import your, or not import, but bring in your SOLIDWORKS models, add those post-it notes. And this is really a collaborative environment. So we could be like 3-4 people working on the same whiteboard at the same time. So it's basically a whiteboard, but it's digital. You can actually assign tasks on the fly. So as you're doing a meeting, you can actually assign responsibilities to users or people on your team, assign who's going to be doing what, following up the meeting. Again, ask yourself how often have you came out of a meeting and you're not sure what's been decided, right? So here's a great tool to actually take action following a meeting. You can even send that into a project planning tool to actually create those tasks for people and plan the project. So really, it's a great tool to help team members collaborate inside of the same meeting. And like I said, we could be like, 3, 4, 5 people collaborating or more, collaborating on the same whiteboard for during a meeting. So really, Lean Team Player, what's it for? It's to simplify and structure the meetings, the team meetings that we're doing. It could be live or web meetings. Works for both applications just as well. But it really helps to get real-time decisions and actions and assign actions to what we decide on the meeting. And it's really collaborative. And also just easy to deploy. It's web-based. There's nothing really needed about, except again, a browser. And it's just very easy to use. Now, the last tool I'm going to talk about, and that's really going to be about manufacturing, is going to be NC Shop Floor Programmer. So NC Shop Floor Programmer, you saw the picture and you probably get it by now. It's a tool to help you program CNC machines. Now it expands on what we can do. If you have subscription of SOLIDWORKS, you have access to SOLIDWORKS CAM, but it expands a little further, well, much further than that. So first of all, it's a full 3-axis milling machining tool. So we can do full 3-axis. We also have more advanced capabilities like high-speed machining built in. Here we're kind of setting up this little program for the CNC. And then when we're done, we can also simulate the toolpath. But different from SOLIDWORKS CAM, where it's only parts, here we can actually simulate toolpath with an assembly with the actual machine that's going to be manufacturing the part in my simulation. It's not just a jig and fixture, we're actually simulating the whole machine. So it's advanced simulation, advanced toolpath simulation. Here we're doing it with the full milling center. We can also, obviously, you see the part running inside kind of being machined. If I hide the outer shell of the milling center, we can just drill in. And as you can see, we're really simulating the full potential of toolpath simulation with the advanced machine simulation as well. So as it's going along, you see the different color kind of meaning the different passes with the different tools, whether the color kind of differentiates if we're roughing or finishing or the tools we're using. So again, just being able to take your SolidWorks design and manufacture it and program your CNCs for that. So if we kind of review NC Shopflow Programmer, it helps us create the CNC programs for 3-axis machining and wire EDM. I didn't mention that, but it does support wire EDM. Also, the capability to validate the CNC programs with the machine simulation. It's not just, so you can detect clashes and things like that, but it's also CAD agnostic. So if you're a SolidWorks user, great, you're obviously going to be able to use that data into NC Shopflow Programmer. But if you're receiving files from your other customers and you're yourself machining or is a machining shop, you might be getting files of different format. With NC Shopflow Programmer, you don't need to bring that into SolidWorks first to do the programming after. You can go directly to programming. So you could basically skip SolidWorks and go directly to programming if you're just getting a file from one of your customers and you need to machine it, or from one of your customers or another department from the company for that matter. So when we look at the platform or the cloud portfolio, there's a lot of different tools built in the portfolio. I kind of just talked about 5 today. We started with the data management on the cloud with Collaborative Designer for SolidWorks, how we can save but also manage the revisions of files and who has access to those files, etc. We talked about simulation to do really advanced simulation that's not capable, that's not possible right now in our desktop products. We also talked about design with a subdivisional modeling tool called X-Shape or 3D Sculptor to do really the organic, really smooth type, consumer product type of designs, industrial designs and things like that. And then we talked about manufacturing. We talked about Lean Team Player to just organize meetings, whether it's manufacturing meetings or design meetings or whatever type of meetings, in person or web, just organize and structure those meetings. And also NC Shopfloor Programmer to program CAM, your 3-axis CAM or wire EDM. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Joelle to wrap up.
Perfect. Thanks, Michel. Great information. And as I said at the beginning, we're focused on 4 different pillars, the main ones that we see in your traditional flow of design, simulation, data management, and manufacturing. These are the pillars that we're focusing on today, just to give you a flavor of what's available. And Michel, you need to keep my slides going though. No time to drink. Wonderful. All right. And I'm sure that you understood from notes and slides or the video at the beginning that the intent of all this, again, not to take away your SolidWorks, right? We want to keep your SolidWorks. We want to add to it and all of these other functionalities. Yes, you can find a lot of functionalities from our desktop products, but you'll also find a lot of these functionalities and more elsewhere, which is the 3D experience. And some of these is collaboration. So collaboration is more than just the ability to share files. It can be the ability to share ideas, to exchange on ideas, to work on things together from a textual, sharing images, format or tasks, whatever it is. There's a lot of things that surround collaboration of data, of information. Of course, there's marketing part of your company. So there's roles for a whole lot of different aspects in your company that are touched by these cloud applications. And we only showed a few, even sometimes just one in each of these cloud bubbles, but there are many more. So all of these are part of what's called 3D experience. And what we're looking to show today was SolidWorks plus cloud solutions. So stay what you are today, add to it. not looking to change everything of how you're working today. You may have heard about 3D Experience before. We have 3D Experience World every year now instead of SOLIDWORKS World. It just encompasses more of what we're trying to do with our companies and with our customers. It can be or look like a large, daunting, black box of different things. And it does include a lot. It's not new to Dassault systems, been around since 2012, but it is a whole lot newer for the SolidWorks users and how we can use it, we can benefit from it, we can improve our functionality, our performance, and our competitiveness on the market by extending what we do and how we do it. So hope that you got a flavor of all this. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is all recorded. If you want to share it, if you want to review it, there are options to do that. Just go back to the link that you got. You will probably get an email as well indicating thank you for joining us. Here's the recording. So feel free to share it as you want. And the next webinar that we will be hosting on this will be attacking next month the data management aspect of this in more detail. So if you want to tune back in for that, please keep track of your emails to see the invitation for that one so that you can join us and see how SolidWorks stays as is. We add cloud data management. Again, ideal if you don't have PDM or not using our PDM solutions yet. So hopefully we'll see you at these next meetings. Michelle, do we have any questions? Sorry, I forgot to check.
Yeah, just one.
Okay.
Yeah, the products we're talking about are to complement what the existing SolidWorks solutions. So they don't come with either SolidWorks Pro, Professional, Premium. They're really complements to those products. So yeah, just wanted to clear that up.
So good question. Not to confuse things, but there is something called 3D Experience SolidWorks. And with that offer of products, then you would have some of these capabilities with it because they come with it. But that is if you have SolidWorks within the 3D Experience platform. That wasn't our focus today. Again, we want to talk to those people who have SolidWorks on their desktop and how you can just expand and improve from that without having to change that. So and we will explore that in other webinars. If you've got questions, don't hesitate. Call your reseller, call us directly. Email us. You're definitely going to have Michelle's email by the GoToWebinar invites, but your resellers are there as well to explain this and demystify what else we can do for you in the cloud. Hopefully this was a productive call. You got to learn something, and that we see you on our next calls. So thanks for being with us. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.